Unlocking Timeless Wisdom, Insights from Marcus Aurelius. You could leave life right now. As Marcus Aurelius says, let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is short. Do everything as if it was the thought or action of a dying person. Marcus says, I think Marcus Aurelius is maybe the most fascinating person who ever lived. We have this idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely. But Marcus is the exception to this rule. He's not born to a royal family. He's chosen as a young man. Actually, at the same age as Nero and groomed for power. And what is the first thing he does with the power? He shares it with his brother. So I've been on this journey studying Marcus Aurelius since I first read Meditations. And it changed my life. And it's changed the life of millions of people in the 2,000 years since he lived. And in today's video, I wanted to give you some of my favorite lessons from the one and only Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king. If you want to learn about the great principles and ideas that this man lived by, I think this video is for you. First, put people first. My favorite story about Marcus Aurelius comes at the depths of the Antonine Plague, which is a horrible pandemic that kills millions of people. Rome's economy has been devastated. People are dying in the streets, and everyone feels like it can't possibly get better. And what does Marcus Aurelius do? He walks through the imperial palace and begins to mark things for sale. For 2 months, he sells on the lawn of the great emperor's palace the jewels and robes and couches, the finery owned by the emperor. He's sending a message. He says, I'm not going to put myself first. I don't need these fancy things. Not when people are struggling. I'm going to do the little things that make a difference. To me, this is like the CEO who takes a pay cut in a bad economy. This is the athlete who renegotiates their contract so the team can bring on new people. This is the leader who sacrifices and struggles, who puts the people first, not their own comfort and needs. That's what greatness is like. And that's why I love this story for Marcus Aurelius. Second, another way is always open. You're not stuck. I know you think you are, but what the Stoics wanted you to know is that, yes, one path might be closed, but another remains open, right? The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius isn't saying that nothing can ever stop you. He's saying that when you're stopped in one capacity, there remains other capacities open to you. You always have the opportunity to practice virtue, practice excellence, to change in some form or another based on what's happened. We don't control what happened. We control how we respond. That's what Stoic philosophy is about. So yes, one path can be closed, the door can be shut, but the window remains open. Someone gets in your way, someone blocks you, someone prevents you. Sure, that happens, but they can't stop you from being patient. They can't stop you from practicing forgiveness. They can't stop you from going in a different direction, from changing your mind, trying something new, growing because of it, learning because of it. The Stoics say no one prevents us from accommodating, adapting, changing, integrating the experiences, the obstacles that are in our path, and turning them into new path. That's what the obstacle is, the way is. It's impossible to get stuck because we always retain our ability to choose and change. Third one, take it step by step. We know what it is we need to do, right? We have the information. The problem is doing it. Marcus Aurelius says you could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow. We put it off. We say, I'm gonna get started on the diet. I'm gonna get started on the novel. I'm gonna get started cleaning the house. I'm not gonna do it today. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. If it was about information, no one would be overweight. No one would be unhealthy. Everyone would have six-pack abs. Every project would get completed. We know how to do it. The problem is that we don't do it. We don't take the steps. That's why the Stoics had the discipline of action. At the end of the day, it's all about the action. It's not what you say. It's not what you think. It's what you do. What action are you gonna take? What step are you gonna take? And really, that's how you finish stuff. Step by step. Just take the first step. Marcus Aurelius says, no one can stop you from that. The fourth is discarding your anxiety. It takes an immense amount of self-awareness to go, I'm feeling discomfort because of X, or I'm feeling anxious because of X. I think that was something for me that I found during the pandemic, where suddenly I wasn't doing anything. So I wasn't having to get to this plane. I wasn't stuck in traffic here. I wasn't having to prepare for this or that. And so you'd think that my anxiety would go way down, that suddenly you'd have a lot less to worry about. And then actually that's not true. And then you realize, oh, the anxiety has nothing to do with any of the things. Actually, Marcus Aurelius talks about this in Meditations. He says, I escaped anxiety. And then he goes, no, actually I discarded it. And he writes this during a play. no less. But he goes, I discarded it because it was within me. That was a breakthrough I sort of had. I was like, oh, I thought I was stressed and anxious and worried because of all of these very reasonable things that cause those things in your life. Work, family stuff. And then when all that gets pared down, you realize it's like, oh no, it was me. Fifth one is, well begun is half done. Marcus Aurelius has a better morning routine than you, I promise. So he gets up early, even though he doesn't want to get up early, even though he doesn't have to get up early. He makes himself get up early. He says, what were you made to sit here under the covers and keep warm? Were you meant to go do the work of a human being? So he gets up early and he goes and he does his work. And what is the first thing you do? I think that he sits down with his journal. Meditation survives to us because it's the private thoughts of the most powerful man in the world. He wrote down these thoughts because they made him better. And then what did he do? He got to work on his most important task of the day. He says, concentrate like a Roman. He says, do this as if it's the last thing you're doing in your life. That's what Marcus Aurelius did. His morning routine set him up for success. He didn't approach the day at random. He knew that well begun is half done. And so should you start your day with a morning routine that lets you own the day from the beginning. The sixth thing to do is being strict with yourself. It's called self-discipline. Nobody else signed up for it. You signed up for it. So you're learning and you're steady and you're self-improvement. You have to be sure that you're applying this only to yourself. Marcus Aurelius says, tolerant with others, strict with yourself. The purpose of all this is to make you a better master of yourself. It's not to make you condescending or patronizing or controlling of other people. It's called self-discipline for a reason. It's your discipline over yourself. You'll leave everyone else and their mistakes and their way of doing things to them. Seventh, don't resent people. Marcus Aurelius didn't like people. I mean, you can't read Meditations and not see this. He opens Meditations with a meditation on how frustrating and obnoxious other people are. And even this idea of the obstacle is the way. That quote is him talking about other people, about how people get in our way, how people present obstacles. But he says that in that obstacle, there's an opportunity to actually practice this philosophy that you say you believe to be good in spite of other people, to be just in the face of injustice, to be temperate in the face of intemperance that's being rewarded, to be courageous when everyone else is being cowardly and being rewarded for it. So for the Stoics, people are frustrating, people are an obstacle, but like all obstacles, they're also the way that's a challenge we can rise to meet. We can be better for wrestling with other people's difficulties. So don't resent people. Use them to become better. The eighth one is asking yourself, is this essential? You're busy. I'm busy. But how much of what we're busy with actually matters? Marcus Aurelius says, ask yourself with everything you do and say, is this essential? Because most of what we do and say is not essential. And he's so right. Most of what we do is because people asked us to do it or people told us to do it or that's how we've always done it. Do we actually need to do it? If we found out we were dying tomorrow, would we keep doing it? Would we do it the way we're doing it? Absolutely not. So he says, when you ask yourself, is this essential? You eliminate so much of what you don't need to be doing. And then he says, you get the double benefit of now doing fewer things better. That's why you ask yourself this question. Is this essential? Do I actually need to be doing it? Am I doing it the way that it needs to be done? And you ask this of everything you do and say and think. The last one to remember the following mantras. 1. Amor fati. It didn't happen to you. It happened for you. Fate chose this for you. Accept it. Embrace it. Bear it. Make something of it. That's the idea of amor fati. Marcus Aurelius says, a fire turns everything into fuel and brightness. That's amor fati. 2. It's about what you do for other people. Marcus Aurelius says, the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. The Stoics weren't trying to study the good. The Stoics weren't trying to study this philosophy to be better sociopaths, to be able to make more money for their own sake, to be more famous. It was about what they do for other people. Do you contribute to your community, to your country? Are you moving the ball forward for humanity? 3. This puts the other two in perspective. Memento mori. You could leave life right now. As Marcus Aurelius says, let that determine what you do and say and think. Life is short. Do everything as if it was the thought or action of a dying person. Marcus says, life is fragile. The pandemic has reminded us of this. Live while you can. Seize the day. Those are 3 great lessons from Stoic philosophy you can apply right now. If you want to learn more about Stoic philosophy totally for free, you can subscribe this channel and hit like button to reach more viewers all over the world.